What is going on, everybody? Welcome back over the Octagon podcast, fresh off UFC Rio, headlined by Charles Oliveira and Mateusz Gamrot. Co-main event: Davison Figueiredo, Montel Jackson, Vicente Luque, Joel Alvarez. We're gonna get into it all, man. We have to talk about. We have to absolutely talk about Charles Oliveira last night. So there was a lot of questions kind of going into it, right? His last outing, Charles's last fight, obviously gets slept, gets knocked unconscious, absolutely disgusting by Ilya Taporia, right? But this is still Charles Oliveira. If we learned anything from last night, it's that this is still Charles Oliveira. That's who we're still talking about here, right? That's who we're still talking about here, Charles Oliveira. He comes in there last night, obviously, UFC Rio, in his hometown, in his home country. You could tell that that shit meant something to him. It meant something different to him than it does to, you know, other people in different places. It meant something different. He came in there last night and just absolutely dominated Gamrot. Absolutely dominated him. There wasn't a point in that fight where Gamrot had the upper hand. Not a single point in that entire fight where Gamrot had the upper hand. Um, Oliveira looked better on the feet. He had Gamrot like running away on the feet. Absolutely insane there. And then when it came to the ground, we're reminded again just how dangerous Charles Oliveira's jiu-jitsu is, right? Obviously, he gets the finish with a rear naked choke in the second round, which he had kind of been hunting, right, for a while. Gave up on it. He gets back into that position on his back, and is able to secure the rear naked choke. Um, and just what an absolute great win for him. So still ranked in the top five. Gamrot, who was kind of on the outside of that top five looking in, was looking to come in, play spoiler at UFC Rio, and get himself a big win here. He did not. He did not do that. He was completely unable to do that. And there's a couple instances, and I'll talk about it too throughout as we kind of go throughout the card, but there's a couple instances where you see the levels to this game that we've talked about. I mean, an insane amount we've talked about, right? There are levels to this game. Charles, former champion, still top five in the world, is clearly levels above guys that are on the fringe of the top 10, like Gamrot is. That fight was not close. It wasn't going to be close. Would it be different if it wasn't in Rio? Maybe. Maybe. It looked like the Rio crowd last night, which was honestly incredible, kind of gave Charles a little bit of superpower, last night. So there was no way I think he was losing that fight. I think it was already won before they even stepped into the octagon. To be honest, and he went out there and he did exactly what he had to do and got the finish. Um, Very cool. It was a really cool night in Rio in general. Obviously, Jose Aldo retires last night. The UFC lets him make the walk once again to do nothing but lay the gloves down in Rio de Janeiro, in front of his home crowd as well. So it was a really cool moment for UFC fans. I feel like there's a lot of new age fans that may not understand the significance of Jose Aldo. Um, a lot of people just kind of equate him with the guy that Conor McGregor knocked out the one time, but dude, he was an unbelievably dominant champion for so long, from the WEC to the UFC, uh, really ahead of his time. And then, obviously every dog has his day, and he's gotten older. His career has moved on. He's moved down weight classes. He's lost some fights. Um, Jose Aldo is officially retired. He's already in the Hall of Fame, by the way, which is crazy, but he is already in the Hall of Fame. And he laid down the gloves last night, officially retires in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. chef's kiss, another phenomenal moment for a fight night, like for an event, a non-pay-per-view event. I thought that's another aspect that they added to that event last night that really made it incredible. So Charles obviously getting his win, and then you know, uh, Jose Aldo retiring really was like just absolutely awesome, incredible. But let's take a look at like some of the other stuff that we kind of have going on. So obviously Oliveira got this sub over Mateusz Gamrot last night. Easy work. Turned Gamrot right around. Gamrot's going to struggle with a lot of guys in the upper echelon of the lightweight division. I don't see Gamrot really, at this point, to be honest, ever pushing into the top 5. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I don't see Gamrot ever pushing into the top 5. There's just too many good guys there. And then you have guys that are kind of the changing of the guard passing. You have guys like Paddy Pimblett. Like, does Gamrot have the skills to beat guys like Paddy Pimblett? I don't think so. But just absolutely incredible win from Charles. That was me and Joel, the other host here at Over the Octagon, were watching the fights together last night or whatever, and huge Charles fan he is. So shout out to him. We couldn't get together today to do like a normal episode, so I'm kind of doing a little solo vibe here. So if you're watching on the live stream, make sure you're hitting a thumbs up, like the stream, subscribe to the channel if you're not already. If you're watching this after the fact, just watching the video portion, make sure you're hitting the thumbs up, like the video, and follow all our social medias and stuff like that. But so, yeah, it makes grown man emotional, right, to see a guy be able to come back because like I said, I just don't know that people really understood or maybe not that they didn't understand, but they didn't know what to expect from Charles Oliveira coming off a knockout loss as brutal as it was against Ilia Topuria. And interesting enough, every person that has lost to Ilia Topuria in recent between Alexander Volkanovski, Max Holloway, and Charles Oliveira have all won their next fight. So just real quick, everybody that talks and says how he's beating the aged guys, he's beating guys that are on the down slope, on the decline of their career, so on and so forth. Yeah, your argument kind of goes out the window when guys come out and do stuff like Charles just did last night. So that all kind of goes out the window. But anyway, so yeah, Charles Oliveira, Mateusz Gamrot, great main event. He literally went off into the crowd afterwards for a long time. I didn't know if he was ever going to come back. That was hilarious. And then what the most interesting point of everything kind of post-fight, I would have to say, would be his call out, right? And I think it was a perfect call out, an absolute perfect call out after his win last night from Charles Oliveira. He calls out Max Holloway for the BMF belt. Is there a better candidate? Is there a better candidate on the UFC roster currently to challenge Max Holloway for the BMF? I don't think so. I love that fight. Max obviously has moved up officially to 155. I absolutely love that fight. Give it to him, please. Please give it to him. So, yeah, Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway. Max Holloway has responded to that. Call out. He said he's down. Let's do it. But he did say the UFC White House is a little too far away. How about we do it in February? So in February, if possible, which I don't see why not. Charles took really no damage last night, right? He took absolutely no damage last night. He should be fresh, should be ready to go. We could see in February, hopefully a numbered pay-per-view event on Paramount Plus would be Charles Oliveira versus Max Holloway for the BMF belt. I think that would be absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. So phenomenal call out by Charles Oliveira last night. I think it makes the most sense ever. I love it. I absolutely love it. What's next for Gamrot? I think you got to give Gamrot Fiziev too. I think you make the Gamrot and Fiziev fight again. But yeah, Charles Oliveira, Max Holloway, BMF. I think it's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. I love it. Anyway, let's go on. So your co-main event was between Davison Figueiredo and Montel Jackson. A little controversy on the scorecards on this one, right? So this ended up being a split decision with one judge giving Montel Jackson the nod at 29-28. Very confusing. That is incredibly confusing to me. They scored a 29-28. I'm assuming they gave Montel Jackson the third round because it seemed like Figgy kind of knew that he was already up 2 rounds to none. So he kind of played it. I do feel like he kind of played it very safe in that third round. So if you wanted to give Montel Jackson the nod for the third round and it ends up being 29-28, Figgy still wins. That's great. I have no issue with that. Totally agree with that. To give Montel Jackson 2 rounds, I thought was insane. Like, this was a ridiculous split decision. I don't think it should ever be a split decision. Just ridiculous. Just absolutely ridiculous. But in that sense, looking at the stats, which I did not look at last night as I was watching these fights, looking at the stats, are we so for real, guys? Are we so for real? We landed 30 strikes in an entire fight. We landed 23 strikes throughout a 3-round fight. I mean, that's bad. Like, that's very bad. And I will say, shout out to Figgy. Figgy gets the win. Davison Figueiredo gets the win last night as a sizable underdog, by the way. And I understand Montel Jackson was on a bit of a tear, good finish streak. But, like, again, I bring it up, levels in competition. Davison Figueiredo is ranked pretty high in the bantamweight division compared to Montel Jackson being ranked 15. Davison Figueiredo is a former flyweight champion. He's a former champion in the UFC. It's insane. And they seriously, he's like a plus 300 underdog. Didn't agree with that. I thought that was crazy. We called that out very, very early, kind of in the beginning. But Montel Jackson has the capability, obviously, to have made this fight very interesting, but he just didn't. He just didn't. I'm not sure what the game plan Montel Jackson had going into this fight, but he was incredibly timid, very, very timid, just shy. Looked like maybe he was waiting to counter, but he had such a reach advantage, and he did not use that reach at all. He kind of waited for Figgy to already cross the void and get within Figgy's striking distance, and then try to counter. And a lot of the times it just kind of left Montel Jackson standing flat-footed, doing nothing, doing absolutely nothing. Very weird, like very odd performance from him. I felt like this fight could have been so much better. This fight could have been so much better than it was. But it wasn't. Like, it really wasn't. This fight I was not a big fan of. I love Davison Figueiredo. I'm so happy to see Davison Figueiredo get a victory. But this fight was just very underwhelming, and the scorecards were very confusing. Montel Jackson's game plan was very confusing. He just stood there very flat-footed, waiting for Figgy. I don't know why you're waiting for the guy when you have like a 7.5-inch reach advantage on him. So I think he's going to be kicking himself today. I could tell as soon as they announced the winner last night, he was kind of like, fuck. Because I think he was pissed. And I hope he was pissed at himself. Because he's better than that. I expected more aggression out of him. Obviously, Figgy's super tough, durable, but Montel was having some success. When he was working the jab and pumping the jab, he was touching him. He was having success. But he was just very timid, very shy. He kind of gave up on it. Not sure. Not sure what's going on with that. But, so what's next, right? Montel Jackson's ranked 15. I think after last night's performance, it's going to be a lot easier to find him an opponent because it sounds like it's been pretty difficult to find a guy like Montel Jackson an opponent. Obviously, why he jumps up in competition so high. But I think after losing after last night, it's going to be a lot easier to find Montel Jackson an opponent kind of in the fringe of the rankings or later on in the top 15. But as far as Deiveson Figueiredo goes, so Deiveson Figueiredo moves up to bantamweight. He starts at UFC 300. He chokes out Cody Garbrandt. He has losses now to Peter Yan. He has losses now to Corey Sandhagen. So who's left for Deiveson Figueiredo to fight, and where does he go from here after this win? And one fight that I saw that was very interesting, and I don't think they'll make it because I think there's a bigger fight for this person, but one suggestion was Deiveson Figueiredo versus Sean O'Malley. He's already fought Corey Sandhagen. Figgy's already fought Corey Sandhagen. And now there's this suggestion going out that after his loss to Corey, obviously O'Malley is not fighting for a title, to have Deiveson Figueiredo and Sean O'Malley fight. Very interesting. I'm interested in that matchup, although I will say the matchup that's more enticing to me that I alluded to before is Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen. That's the fight that everybody has been wanting to see for a few years now, right? That's been years that people have been calling and wanting to see that fight. So it's very interesting to me that there's a bunch of matchups now at bantamweight, and it's a great win for Deiveson Figueiredo to kind of play gatekeeper a little bit here, and turn back Montel Jackson. Deiveson Figueiredo did a great job of crossing space, overcoming the reach disadvantage. Good amount of control time, a few takedowns. Very impressed with Deiveson Figueiredo last night. Very confused by Montel Jackson last night. Very confused by the judges in this fight last night. Super confusing. But either way, kind of an underwhelming co-main event in my opinion. An underwhelming co-main event. As well as this. So we move on, right? So we had a highly anticipated welterweight debut for Joel Alvarez, who was a lightweight, has been relatively inactive, and has moved up to 170 pounds to make his welterweight debut. He comes to fight Vicente Luque, UFC Rio last night. Now, the scorecards, 30-26 across the board. Obviously, Joel Alvarez really kind of dominated this fight, but it didn't. It was not dominant in the way that you would hope that it was. Like, it was very cautiously dominant, if that even makes sense. Like, he was calculated, which I think can be good. But a guy against Luque, I was really hoping that he was going to hunt the finish, that he was really, really, really going to hunt the finish. Now, obviously, there was a controversy in round one, right, that we need to talk about. Controversy in round one that this fight should have been stopped in the first round because Luque could not continue. So they stopped this fight due to an eye poke. However, there was absolutely no eye poke. It was a legal strike. So there is argument back and forth, excuse me, and really they should have stopped this fight. They absolutely should have stopped this fight. Joel Alvarez, with a punch, hits Vicente Luque in his eye. Vicente Luque goes down, is talking like he cannot continue to fight, tries to say it was an eye poke. Obviously, you roll the footage back. It was not an eye poke. It was 100% a legal blow. That fight should have been stopped. You shouldn't call the doctor in the middle of the fight to look at Vicente Luque's eye. There was not a foul there. They treated it like there was a foul, even though there was no foul. In my opinion, that fight should have been stopped. Joel Alvarez should have got the first round TKO because Luque couldn't continue, but then Luque continued. So it was like such a strange turn of events. Like, that whole kind of thing was very, very odd turn of events. But nonetheless, Joel Alvarez gets his victory in his debut at welterweight at 170 pounds. I just think it was underwhelming. I just feel like he should have been able to do a lot more. He should have been able to finish Vicente Luque. That weird reverse triangle stalemate that Joel Alvarez really kind of kept himself in and stayed in to have control over Luque towards the end of the second round. I was very baffled and confused on why he was holding on to this reverse triangle when it obviously wasn't getting it. He goes to go for a toe hold and why? What are we doing here? Let go of the fucking triangle. You're not getting the finish. Go for the finish. Go for the finish. This is a guy that you should be way better than, Joel Alvarez. You should be way better than this guy. You should be able to finish this guy. So little disappointing performance, even though it was dominant. Again, it was dominant, but not in the traditional sense. It was dominant because it was cautious. It was calculated. I just was hoping, as much of a killer as he's been in his career and the things that we've seen from him at 170, I really just expected a lot more. But either way, UFC Rio last night did not disappoint. I mean, look, let's start, right? So we started off with a sub with an armbar from Luan Lacerda, KO from Palastri, the Psycho, right? I think they call her Julia Palastri. That was a fucking mismatch, right? That was an absolute mismatch. Be a Mosquito with the sub. Vitor Petrino, okay. Vitor Petrino with just an absolutely disgusting knockout over Thomas Peterson. Okay, and this is just the prelims, guys. This is the prelims. So we've had a bunch of finishes. Vitor Petrino gets a disgusting knockout. Filio gets a submission over Clayton Carpenter, which was awesome. Disappointing by Clayton Carpenter, but a great Kimura. I mean, Filio was so much better on the ground. That was really where it is there. Filio just so much better on the ground. That was a huge mismatch. Also way more experienced, right? Rafael Filio, 17-4. Clayton Carpenter, that was only his 10th professional mixed martial arts fight. He's 8-2. Just very inexperienced, very young, veteran guy, incredible shape, great grappling at flyweight last night. The veterans in flyweight really have continued to show how good they are, and he did it last night. Obviously, Michael Aswell gets a KO over Lucas Almeida. Man, as your featured prelim, and that was great as well, right? And then you get a sub from Con Alfie, not Contender Series, but Ultimate Fighter veteran, Con Alfie. I believe he fought for Alexa Grasso and the Valentina Shevchenko season. So shout out to him. Quick work, round one, submission, rear naked choke over Ricardo Ramos at featherweight. Good win. Mario Pinto gets the KO TKO over Denise. Denise just really looks sad right there. I mean, that was, you talk about a dominant win. I think that was a great win for Mario Pinto, who moves to 11-0, undefeated heavyweight. Loved what I saw from him last night. Absolute great athlete. I think he brings something a little fresh to the division. Hopefully we see him to continue to rise, continue to win fights. 11-0, super impressive. You know, Denise was 9-1 going into this. This is a fight that I kind of highlighted leading up to this because I thought, you know, these are some rising prospects in a division that desperately needs rising prospects, right? So Mario Pinto, great win for him. Way to get the finish in round two. Dominant. Look at those striking numbers. I mean, look at those striking numbers. Look at the control time. Look at the takedowns. I mean, just he got on top of him. He controlled him. Denise just could do absolutely nothing with Mario Pinto last night. Great win for him. And then that brings us back to the top of the card with the fights we already talked about. Honestly, UFC Rio, in my opinion, great fight, great card. But I really think it was the moments that made it so good, the Charles Oliveira comeback, right? The Charles Oliveira return to Rio in front of his home crowd, in front of all of these people that love him so dearly, to go out there and dominate and then get a submission victory over Mateusz Gamrot in the way that he did. Man, him going to the crowd, I mean, just electric. People love Charles Oliveira. Absolutely love Charles Oliveira. In my opinion, he's the people's champion. So for him to turn around last night and go out and get this submission victory in Brazil, just absolutely beautiful, man. This is why we love this sport so much. We get so emotionally invested into these fighters, into their wins, into their losses, into the good moments, the bad moments, all of it. We see a guy like Charles Oliveira, who everyone has absolutely adored his entire career, and when he became champion was just peak, absolute peak years of UFC. And then you watch him get completely flatline KO'd, and you think, man, it's really over. Like, it's over. It's the changing the guard. It's over. These guys are getting, put away. The Max Holloways, the Alexander Volkanovskis, and the Charles Oliveiras of the world are getting put away. It's over for us. But unfortunately, or fortunately, I should say, fortunately for us, it's not. It's not over for us. It's not over for Charles. That fight last night showed everybody it's not over for Charles Oliveira, right? What's left for Charles Oliveira to accomplish? Well, he told you last night in the Octagon after the fight was over. A BMF belt. And like I already said earlier, who's a better candidate for a BMF belt than Charles du Bronx Oliveira? Listen, guys, the champion has a name. The champion has a name, and it's Charles Oliveira. If you're not already, make sure you hit the subscribe button, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up, like the video. Follow us on our journey. Make sure you check us out on social media over the Octagon podcast. Everything UFC, MMA, combat sports, jiu-jitsu, boxing. We do it all. Love and appreciate every one of you. Peace.